Idaho's first vertically integrated dairy processing plant has opened just in time for June Dairy Month, with a focus on contract manufacturing. Suntado processes and packages on site with capacity for up to 1 million pounds of locally produced milk per day into shelf stable and extended shelf life milk and liquid dairy products. The 190,000 square foot facility is the first U.S. co manufacturer to use Tetra Pak's Tetra Top packaging. I'm Kelly Rodriguez, editor in chief of Refrigerated and Frozen Foods and host of From the Cold Corner, a podcast dedicated to the cold chain. I recently toured the new facility in Idaho and am joined on this episode by Tori Nichols, Office of the CEO and Business Development at Suntado, Russ Lucas, Suntado Plant Manager, and Matt Rutz, Vice President of Contract Manufacturing for Tetra Pak US and Canada, to talk more about Suntado and the future of the dairy business. Thank you all for joining me today. Tori, one of the most interesting parts about your business is that Suntado is not focused on having a brand. Is that correct?
Suntado's brand is Taste the Quality, and that quality comes from having a vertically integrated milk supply, milk shed that is less than 45 minutes from our plant. The equipment that we have that we process with can provide the highest of quality and the best tasting products that are being made out there today with national brands and private labels. So our brand is Taste the Quality primarily because if someone's going to trust their brand or their private label with us, we've got to do a superior job of it. We've got to be proud of every single product, no matter how many different products we make. We've got to be proud of the quality that we put out of the building. And I think that Suntado presents a unique situation in that we have a secure milk supply. And when you look across co-manufacturing or manufacturing for dairy products, you're either going to, in most cases, lean on someone to co-pack your private label or possibly co-pack your brand that may already have a brand.
Right.
So that could be conflicting in some people's eyes. For us, we didn't want any conflict. We wanted every customer that came through the door at Suntado to feel like they were Suntado, that they wanted to develop a new product or they had a new innovation in mind, they could use us to create that. A lot of things go along with that. They have to trust their proprietary information with us. They've got to trust that we're going to protect their brand and that we're looking out in their best interests. I believe the Suntado team is adaptable and flexible enough and bright enough that we can manage numerous brands as if they're our own. And that's our goal.
Matt, you shared with me that Suntado is the first U.S. contract manufacturer to use your Tetra Top packaging. How does Tetra Pak view the co-manufacturing market and its importance to the U.S. supply chain?
I believe there's a major opportunity for Tetra Top in pints and quarts in particular. So even though the consumer's buying it chilled and it is a chilled package, it's a chilled format, so it needs that it's extended shelf life. Meaning, depending on the product, it could get upwards, to 70 to 100 days, depending on what product's in it, maybe even more. But contract manufacturers such as Suntado kind of enable brands to take advantage of the new technology, put a new face on their product, and offer it at a very competitive price. And that's what contract manufacturers enable. They enable the deployment of innovative technologies, and for a brand, and it's important because it's an incremental step because they've invested in the capability, and the brand can buy a certain amount of capacity that they want to launch their product with. So it's a win-win for both parties, both the brand and the contract manufacturer. And that's really what we see is the way of the future is that co-mans really offer a great market solution for everybody to win.
Can I tag onto that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so just tag on that, because I know sometimes we have a tendency to, when we talk chill, focus on evergreen and Tetra Tot, when in reality, this whole plant sells packages that are all chilled.
Mhm.
They may,
Right, yeah,
they
thank you.
they may come off as ambient off the line, you may be able to store them ambient, but they're all chilled.
They're gonna
packages.
be served chilled.
Right.
Yeah, and so when you look at, one of the things that I think, dairy is a little bit behind on, and that we believe we can be on the forefront on, is that plant-based products, I want to say this without being too offending, but plant-based products found a way to process aseptically, package aseptically, ship aseptically, and then get sold in the grocery store in the chilled sections.
Right.
They really found the model on how to extend the shelf life, create products, have innovation, but they would end up being sold in the chilled section. It's almost as if the dairy industry has just refused to adopt anything that the plant-based partners have become very good at. It's our job, it's our owner's job, they're dairymen, to change that way of thinking.
Mhm.
We don't want to dump milk down the drain.
Right.
We don't want to throw away outdated product. We want to make flavorful, rich, really good products with additional additives, probiotics, we want to be innovative in dairy. That's going to mean that some of those products need to be packaged aseptically, but they will be sold chilled.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so as, what my hope is and what my vision is with Suntado is that someone will walk through our plant and the only difference they'll see in our fillers is that two get stored in the chilled section, but all of them get sold in the chilled section.
Right.
So, just something that I think, will be very, innovative and on the forefront of, especially because we have the vertical milk supply. And, when it comes down to someone going, I really gotta have some heavy whipping cream, like
Right.
it's short in the market, and you're a co-packer, you really only have the edge package, and I'll say, hey, come look at the edge package sold in the chilled section in this brand, and in this brand, and this brand, why don't you just put a dairy product in it? The customer has no clue.
Right.
That it's an aseptic package, they will love the taste of the milk, they will love the taste of the product, but you're gonna get all these additional added benefits of aseptic processing, the quality, and the extended shelf life, so. Kind of like pops, Otter Pops,
Right.
They can be cold, I'm gonna go back to my Walmart days. You take a box of Otter Pops and you sell it out in the middle aisle
Right.
in the summer, you'll sell 20 boxes. If you take those 20 boxes a day, you take those boxes and you put them in a cold end freezer door where they're already frozen, they're already ready to go, you'll sell 100 boxes a day. So anytime you can put it where it's at, that's all we're doing. We're taking the Otter Pop and we're putting it in, we want to put it in the chilled cooler so it's ready to go. We want to take this chocolate milk that is amazing chocolate milk and just have them stock it in the cooler at the front register.
Right.
So.
It is fascinating too, because one of the things that I was talking about at lunch is I said, I wonder if, and this is going to be a question for ultimately the brands that come to you and manufacture and the industry as a whole, but that's a big value proposition for the consumer. If I'm a consumer and I have a choice between buying my standard fluid milk in a plastic jug that has at most 2 weeks or so of shelf life, or I can buy this package that's sold right next to that jug, in the chilled case where the consumer expects to find it, but it has a three times the shelf life. That's also a huge value proposition for the consumer.
Yeah.
And
they can buy 18 packs, 24 packs, they can put 12 in the pantry and 3 in the fridge, and they can pantry feed their fridge, right? I think there is a part of the business out there that's way ahead of the retail consumer, the retail grocer, and that's food service. I like to use the example of, there seems like there's a coffee shop or a coffee barn or whatever on every corner, right? The number one thing they're challenged with is cold storage. But you look at Starbucks, you look at all these coffee shops, they bring in all this aseptic dairy.
yes,
Aseptic products, And then they just, when they need them, they go back to their dry area because cold storage is really hard to have, and then they just put them in their cooler. And I think if the American consumer were to step back and watch what's happening in food service and adopted some of those same practices in their home, A, they'd save money, B, they'd throw a heck of a lot less away. They benefit from it overall.
I gotta ask you, Russ, and a little bit, Tori, feel free to piggyback, but two things struck me this morning when you were talking about the plan. First, that you spent a year on engineering and design before you put a shovel in the dirt. But what is almost more impressive to me is that you had shovels in the ground basically a year ago. Less that you've shovels in the ground to a plant that is doing trial runs and preparing to go full speed in roughly 12 months. What was that like? And do you have a magic wand or how?
No, I mean, when I came out to interview, that was last March last year, and I came out, yeah, and that was before the first 4 walls broke. Between my interview date and my start date in May of last year, they put up the walls that surround what's the silo vestibule now out there. And yeah, I came out and I was slogging through the mud and going around the foundations, and the site superintendent from Big D, Ken, was walking me through, this is gonna be this, and here, just imagine this, all your equipment sitting in here, like, dude, we're outside. It's
Right.
nuts, but walk through. So I mean, it was certainly daunting. I've been involved in a couple of startups, and it's really fun to see everything. Like, for me, like, less so the construction. I mean, I like dozers and all this stuff, like, cool. But like, seeing all that was interesting. But really, once they started dropping equipment in, I started getting excited. And not all the walls were done, and yeah, they're still laying pipes out there and doing things. I'm like, oh boy. But yeah, once we started moving some water around and doing commissioning, it got exciting for me. That's that's my wheelhouse, and it's been all gas and no brakes here for a little bit, trying to get things going, and we've got hey, this customer wants you to run this kind of product. You're gonna have to use a blender, and by the way, figure out how to do it really small, because we don't want to be like, they only need sample volumes, so it's been neat. We've kind of learned some unique things about the equipment, and we've even on I wish we could say we're batting 1,000. We've had a couple, we've fallen down a few times, but there's a ton of value in, like, oh shoot, like, we don't want to do that again, or
Right.
we should get the programmers in here and let's figure that one out, because that stunk. So it's been an adventure, and it's been super cool to watch, just the whole plant go up. It's fun when you there for months, driving in every day. Holy smokes, another wall's up. Oh,
Every day.
all the steel they flew yesterday. So it has been really exciting throughout the whole process.
And when did you run your first trial of when did you get your first, fluid milk delivery to start testing your processes here and everything?
I mean, we kind of put out some feelers early on saying, hey, in this time frame, if there's any milk available. So we actually got our hands, the first commissioning, just running stuff through the system. We actually got some free-ish milk. We got some distressed milk that wasn't going to get packaged anywhere. We're like, we need to bring some milk and run it through all this equipment. It's going to pick up shavings or dust or whatever the heck's in the pipes, and then we're just going to dump it anyway. We're going to have it land applied. So we got a couple loads of just freebie almost.
Right.
We had to pay for the freight. But it gave us a chance again to bring things in and actually run pumps and say, hey, I want to go from this place to this place and check out all the valves. And again, most everything was good. There's a few why is there milk on the floor?
Right.
Stop everything. What just happened? Like, oh, we got a bed seal or cap left off, whatever. But at that time, it was only a handful of us around.
And when was that?
March 15th, I think, is when we ran that.
February, March. Yeah. So yeah,
That
late
was our
February.
first official, we're gonna mail this out to people.
I mean, that's truly so, and I'm imagining, I'm assuming that a lot of what allowed you to get the building up as efficiently and quickly was the year that you and Suntado, spent. Tell me a little bit about that and some of the choices
Well, interesting enough, it's very interesting. We started having customer conversations over 3 years ago, saying this is what we're gonna do, this is who we are. And um, I think, a lot of people just said, okay, great, we'll talk to us whenever. And then, the next step was, hey, we've designed engineered this building. Let us show you the computer model. Let's walk through everything. And then at that point, you could have a brand owner on call and they could go through the equipment with you and go, hey, that's great, but we're accustomed to having maybe this piece of equipment to help us bring a drum pump, for example, to bring this ingredient in to the plant. And we would all look at each other, well, let's design engineer a drum pump in there. So a lot of taking the design model from a digital form and then sharing it with numerous customers and then having them also talk through what they were going to need or what they use currently. It kind of evolved over time. It's even to this day, we still are making subtle adjustments out in the plant to accommodate. We just ordered a piece of lab equipment 2 months ago that we incorporated into the lab to make a brand owner happy around having a specific test done that we didn't know 3 months ago we were going to need to do that test. So I think designing the model at a high level, well, not even at a high level, we'll call it 98%. And then sharing that model with potential customers, getting their feedback, and then going back and refining that. We had, for the past 3 years, every Tuesday from 10 to 11 was a process call. And anybody that had anything to do with process, design, engineering in the plant was on that call. And they were 2-hour calls. And they'd go through every detail. I'm not an engineer, and it just blew me away at what they would talk about. And then they would, there was a very stringent position from day one to go into the digital model and update your stuff. And if you don't update it, then you won't be part of the next phase 2 and phase 3. There was a line drawn in the sand that this was the expectation. And luckily, all of our partners in the process went in and did what they were supposed to do so we could troubleshoot before we even started to bring pipe in and put pipe in. But we had things that came up and we've overcome them. But I would tell you, when I get calls from customers of brands, 99% of someone that wants to make a low acid direct steam injection product, 99% of them we can do. And the 1% that we don't want to do, or we don't do, may be something that interrupts the flow of being able to make the other 99% of the products. So it was a team effort. I mean, every vendor partner was key. I mean, it was lots and lots of communication. And then when it went to a whole nother level when we brought Russ on, because Russ had live experience.
You mentioned this morning that a lot of people, told you in the Suntado team that you guys were crazy to even endeavor to build an aseptic ESL milk processing or dairy processing facility, I should say. What do you think, now that it's a reality, it's been built, what would you say to those people now, and what do you think the market response will be?
My response then would be yeah, you're right. We are crazy. We're 100% crazy. And I think that if you're going to go into a space or you're going to do something in business, what was neat is that we were taking on the most challenging type of processing for dairy. And if you're going to go into it, you might as well go and try and master the hardest stuff.
Right.
Because it's not a space a lot of people are willing to go into. And if we can do it and do it right, then the Suntado name will be a well-known name,
Tori, Matt, and Russ, thank you again for joining me on From the Cold Corner. And thank you to the entire Suntado team for taking the time today to share their space with us. For more on the Suntado story and all things cold chain, visit rffmag.com.